Well, hello. Hey, Kelly. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
Yeah, I always love having you in here. We have a lot in common, and this is a topic that hits home really close to me today. And you have, well, just to back up, you were here in episode 56. If anybody hasn't had a chance to listen in, we definitely invite you to go back after you get done listening here today. And we dabbled on gut microbiome and gut health.
Yeah.
And I think we recorded back in March. I don't even remember the date. I don't have that on top of my head. But in hindsight, I've had a year of, and at the time, I wasn't necessarily looking close enough at my gut health that you and I were talking. And again, in hindsight, because, and we're going to learn more about that today. We're going to unpack that more today, but we're really going to dive in and use me as an example. I was in here last week's episode with episode 78 with Kim Hines. We just transparently shared our journey this past year. This is in 2024. We've each had our own, and we're going to talk about the GIMAP because that's something that both Kim and I have gone through, shared our results. And the story was, like I was telling you, Kelly, before we hit record, it was emotional. I didn't, when you stop to think and just kind of replay that history and what I was going through and feeling, it got me a little teary. And but that's good. That's good that I was in touch with those feelings and I was able to kind of share that here with the listeners. So Kelly, remind our listeners a little bit about you and why you're back here talking about this and why you're an expert in the field to help educate us.
Yeah. I feel like that's a big title, expert in the field. So I'm Kelly
Ah,
Schmidt.
in the
Uh,
type 1 field. Yes.
and I'll be going on my 33rd year next month.
Mm,
About a month from today, I'll be 33 years with type 1 diabetes. I'm 40 right now, and I was diagnosed on my 8th birthday, and I'm a functional dietitian. So not only am I passionate about helping put healthy, balanced meals on people's plates, but I like going much deeper with functional testing. So I guess that's what gives me the label as a functional dietitian versus conventional. And I like to believe that we're all here with the best interests of everyone's health, but I just like uncovering the root of the root. And what we're talking about today is stool test. And when I work with clients, there's of course a lot of layers of coaching, but I like to offer testing as well. And a stool test is one of my favorite things for anyone with an autoimmune disease because it almost gives me color to the painting of their story.
mm,
It helps me understand their risk, their imbalances, their areas of need, even it can relate to the personality of the person. It can relate to
mm.
hormones. It can relate to the liver, and so much more. So I'm already going on a tangent, but I'm Kelly.
I love it.
I'm a functional dietitian. I own my own virtual practice here in Columbus, Ohio, and I help people throughout the Midwest and worldwide. And I'm excited to have this great conversation that's much needed.
Yeah. And I appreciate you as a friend and a fellow T1D who have, since I've been sharing this online and you and I've talked offline about what I've been going through, I truly treasure your, not only your interest and your true care about my process. I really wanted to just bring attention to that. It's meant a lot to me. Not only am I getting a lot of help from doctors, um, and that's something we're going to talk about too today, is really to advocate. And there can be a lot of noise with doctor's advice, friends' advice, online advice. And even as a coach, I feel like I have a pretty good practice of discerning all of this. But when you're in it, it's a different animal. It really is. And like I shared last week, um, I was really struggling because again, I had a lot of medical advice coming at me, going to dermatologists, getting the creams. I never was put on an oral antibiotic, but it was cream antibiotics. Just diagnosed with eczema, and then my face. So they said my body had eczema, my face had psoriasis, and then I went down the getting the skin biopsies, which is definitely a good thing. That's definitely a step, and found out that it wasn't autoimmune related. Again, one of the things we got to think about when we have one autoimmune disease is, could it be some other skin related diseases that are kind of triggered by the autoimmune. So, but I still couldn't. I was like, okay, but the skin just responds to what's going on deeper. So I
Yeah.
knew in my gut, my own intuition, that I just didn't randomly have a skin rash. I
Yeah.
knew there was something deeper. I wasn't getting that sort of support from doctors. I remember reaching out to you. And then once I got my biopsy back, I discovered, that well, actually my decision was to do a cleanse. So I went on this, it was a great cleanse. It was all herbal based, easy to do. And then what happened was it actually triggered my skin rash. And again, I'm still learning all this. I didn't really understand if that was the cause, if it was just another stage of my rash erupting. If so, I ended up, after it was supposed to be a 30-day cleanse, I went off of it in about 20 days because the back of my legs were just erupted in a rash. And I mean, I was wearing jeans in the summertime. I live in Florida, and I was just so embarrassed by how bad it looked. And I didn't want that shame from people looking at me, all the things, right? All the things that go through our minds, especially women. I think we can get a little more self-conscious about how we appear in public. But anyway, in a long story short, so I ended up going off that. Then I finally, your advice and another practitioner's advice, I got the GIMAP done. And you're going to tell us why this is so important. Because in hindsight, back in January, when all this was popping up, it started in my face and then ended up just kind of spreading around my body. If I had just stopped, gotten the facts, and dealt with the real truth, my healing would have been a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
Or sooner. I don't know about easy, but sooner, right?
Yeah. You like to think everything happens for a reason, but maybe that cleanse had some sort of benefit. But I think for sure, like if you go to your doctor, why I'm passionate about this, and I think you too, and I'm going to use a trendy word, but when we have these weird situations, we're almost gaslit. It's like, that's not my lane. Go see this other doctor. That's not my lane.
Mm-hmm.
Go to Mayo Clinic and spend a fortune.
Yeah, right.
And it's really frustrating. And I'll like approach a client and they come to me with different, hearing different things and different understanding, but I'll offer a stool test. And they're like, well, what's the point of that? I'm not bloated every day. And a stool test goes much deeper, much
Yeah.
deeper. When I think of the skin is a reflection of the gut, as well as I
Mm-hmm.
also think seasonal allergies is a reflection of the gut. So those are
Mm-hmm.
two things that are accessible for us to like examine and look at and measure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the stool test itself, it's going to not only tell me if there's a pathogen present. So if you go to a gastroenterologist or even family medicine doctor, they'll say, okay, we'll look for a pathogen, or we will look for a parasite, excuse me, or what it may be. But these functional stool tests, I like GIMAP, I like GIFX, and I like Biome FX. Those are 3 different stool tests, and I've actually done them all, and I have clients on a variety of them. And I think it's important as a functional dietitian to understand how to interpret each of them, because clients will be coming to me from other practitioners and this, that, and the other. But they
Mm-hmm.
also benefit. They'll tell me how well your enzyme activity is and how well your hydrochloric acid production in the stomach is. It'll tell me how diverse your gut bacteria is. So I think of our colon as a garden bed, and that garden bed has a spot for each plant. We can't plant, tomatoes on top of peppers, that spot's
Mm-hmm.
taken. And that's a similar thing for our colon. Every parking spot is taken with either good or bad bacteria. And it's important we understand what's in there and what's the balance, and is there any overgrowth. Most Americans have overgrowth from stress, from processed foods, from sugar, from blood sugar, a pathogen presence, lack of enzymes, and more. So tell me about enzymes, tells me about gut diversity. And also can tell me about inflammation. Again, and tell me more of those things. And of course, the pathogens. Did I say that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As well. So it can just tell me a lot. I have a client who's type 1, for example, and she came to me and she's like, I had this pain in my side. I got an ultrasound. I'm going on a bit of a tangent here. And she said, they said I had early stages of fatty liver. And this is a lean, decent controlled blood sugar female, age 43. And it showed fatty liver. And I looked at her stool test and I was like, this strain of bacteria that has overgrowth is actually related to fatty liver. So the gut can tell us, the bacteria can tell us so much. So I
Mm-hmm.
think it's great that you did it. And I think it's giving us direction on what needs done. The interpretation is an art. It is such an art, and the solutions to put together. I know we just went through, what did your practitioner do to rectify your case? And you told me, and I like what she's doing, but I actually would add something else on. But it's,
Tell us. Yes.
you want me to go right in?
Let's dive in and maybe share with the listeners, because you can kind of communicate it maybe a little bit clearer than I can. So initially my test showed a parasite, which was what, I had the antibiotic, that was, I think it was a 2-week antibiotic that I took to get rid of that. I had a retest, which it's funny because the initial GIMAP is so in depth. It is, I'll tell you what, it's actually, when you think about the test itself, everybody's like, oh, a stool test. But
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, when you get those results back, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Even if you can't interpret it, because I'm no bacteria expert, but
Mm.
it's so telling. It's like, who wouldn't want to know what's going on with
Yeah.
that whole digestive system and elimination, right? Um, and so I went on the parasite antibiotic, and then I went back. You asked me this before we hit record, as far as the cost. So that one was out of pocket. The GI map was not covered by my insurance. And maybe you can tune in to more, or kind of give us more information about that. I went back for a retest after my antibiotic was done. And this was just done through Quest, our local lab. And I'll tell you what, talk about a short report, because it literally just said parasite gone. So there was no detail. I was like, I want more detail. So again, it was covered by insurance, but yeah, it was just a yes or no whether or not the antibiotic took care of it. So
Yeah. So you want me to go dive in just kind
yeah, go
of?
for it.
Um,
Thanks.
One thing is this GI map, they range around ballpark $400. GI map, GI effects can be ran through insurance, but a lot of practitioners are kind of just doing list price and this, that, and the other. The Biome FX is a lab that does not get ran through insurance. And when it's ran through insurance, it ends up being around $200. So there's some
Okay.
savings there. Biome FX does not have insurance, but it has more of a story to those results. It'll tell us about the estrogen, the estrogen biome,
Yes.
and it'll
Mm-hmm.
also give me some information on micronutrient status.
Mm.
But let's focus on GI map for now. Number one, it is very lucky that a parasite was caught. Parasites are
Mm.
not always caught. So I think part of functional training with a functional medicine practitioner, a functional dietitian, we are trained to look at the symptoms as strong as the data. I went to my
Mm.
endocrinologist yesterday, and that was an experience. It's always an experience. And I really care for her. I really know her well. She even hugged me. Like, we have a great relationship. But she was like, I'm not going to treat your thyroid, even though your TSH is a 6, because you don't have antibodies, and we did an ultrasound, and you don't have autoimmune activity of your thyroid. And I was like, but I have all the symptoms, and my TSH is a 6, and you don't want to treat me. And I didn't fault her. I was upset with her solutions for me because they're lack of, but my symptoms are as important as the data. And that's how I'm trained, and that's how I help my clients. So
Yeah.
even if a parasite wasn't caught, I would keep prying because of your skin issue if we couldn't figure out how to get it to go away.
Mm-hmm.
But parasites are not always caught. They can hide, and they can hide well. So I'm really glad that it was caught. On your GI map, the first page is a quick report card. It looks like a foreign language to most people. When
Mm-hmm.
my clients do a result, I tell them, I'm going to give you a report as soon as I get it, and then we're going to have a session to walk through it. But the first page is basically a report. The second page, the thing about GI map is it has a whole section included on H. pylori. H.
Mm.
pylori is a pathogen, and H. pylori is common. It's common, and you have presence of H. pylori, but it's not to an amount that's high that we need to like really scratch our head and clear it. Usually H. pylori can be present and be fine in overall health in an individual. However, you have H. pylori, which pylori, it's like I'm talking a different language again, will drive down HCl. That's hydrochloric acid in the stomach that helps break down proteins and keep
Okay.
stomach acidic to prevent pathogens going into your digestive tract. And
Mm-hmm.
I think because you have low HCl based off of some other things in your report, that's how the parasite came. So people don't just
Mm.
get a parasite, you have to be a good host. And what makes you a
Mm.
good host? You have low enzyme activity and low
Mm.
HCl. And after age 30, people naturally have lower amounts of enzymes coming from the pancreas. The pancreas not only is dealing with glucagon and insulin, it's also responsible for enzymes breaking down our carbohydrates, fat, and proteins. But you also have low HCl. So I think number one, let's clear the parasite. Let's support your digestive tract and your leaky gut, your gut permeability. But number one, we need to get to the root. And I don't know if your practitioner really got this far, but I would very much advocate that you take enzymes and HCl with each of your meals. Has that been something that's been recommended to you by chance?
Well, no, I'm taking, and I did share with you, I'm taking a digestive enzyme. It's just 1 scoop a day. So this is just a powder that I take in the morning. So not with every meal.
And is that powder the Mega IgG 2000?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's
Yes.
actually not an enzyme, it's an immunoglobulin.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's not like, Kelly, what are you talking about?
I know. I'm learning just like everyone listening here. Yeah, this is and we hear these terms and we hear everywhere, but we don't know how to put it together and make sense of it. So this is it's a good example to kind of.
Yeah, that Mega IgG 2000 is a product from Microbiome Labs, a really good company. And that is a product you do need to be on. And that's almost like Neosporin. It's like putting Neosporin on your small intestinal lining, really
Mm,
strengthening that integrity. So it's a very important product because your integrity is broken down from the parasite. The parasites created havoc. So we need to make sure we're supporting the structures of everything as we clear the bad guy. However, out of the gate, the enzymes and acid in your stomach seem to be low based off your GI map. And that's something that needs to be supported as well, longer term. So enzymes and HCl could be something people are on a lifetime. And it's a pain in the butt supplement to remember to take because we're already bolusing our insulin, right? It's like, what?
right.
One more
Another
thing.
thing.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but little things can help, like drinking lemon water before a meal or apple cider vinegar before a meal. That can help the enzymatic presence. Um, but also one step further is like, okay, how can I figure out my unique needs? There's something called a hydrochloric enzyme challenge. And it's literally just getting a bottle of HCl. And you could probably even get HCl from like CVS, like a drugstore. But I have an account with FullScript. And do you have account with
I
FullScript
do.
for your
Yes, I
client?
sure do. Mm-hmm.
So they can come to you and say, oh, I want to, or me if they want to figure out the stools test stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I want a bottle of HCl. And what you would do is take one of those capsules before each meal for a day. And the next day, load it up to 2, follow it up with 3
Mm,
until you feel a little bit of a warm sensation by your collarbone or the bottom of your
mm,
throat. And that's saying what dose of HCl do you need to help cover the digestion of a meal.
mm.
And everyone has a unique amount. And it also
Sure.
depends on the size of the meal. So like a nice smoothie, like a pea protein, some fruits and veggies smoothie. I don't think we need as much HCl versus scrambled eggs and sausage.
That
Uh,
makes sense.
so it's just something to have as a layer of step one of supporting digestion or digestion dysfunction, and that's the enzymes in HCl. And I think your lower levels made you more of a candidate to catch this parasite. And then
Mm,
this parasite has damaged your gut bacteria balance and also the gut lining of your small intestines. Good news is all of this can be recovered. So it's
mm-hmm.
like,
Mm.
oh dear heavens, this is bad. And I do every test on myself to learn it best. And I remember I did my GI effects. I was like, it was like probably 8 years ago. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to learn this on me. And I got my results back and I was like, oh, this is way worse than the average.
Oh, isn't that
And
funny?
I didn't even have big
Yeah.
symptoms. And that just points to the value of a stool test. There's so much value in
Yeah.
a stool test, even if you don't have symptoms, to understand how to support your overall health.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think my biggest recommendation on top of the great supplements your practitioner has put on to clear your parasite, support your bacteria, and support your gut lining, that we need to make sure we're helping you top down. So top down, even before I put someone on a gut protocol, I talk to clients about mindset. Because if we're stressed, if we're obsessed with doing things perfect, we're going to create this cortisol response that influences gut health. Really,
Mm,
it's going in with grace, feeling confident and comfortable, and taking one step at a time that's realistic for the patient or client.
mm,
Um, but from mindset, I would go right to that acid and enzymes, and that's what needs support as well while we clear the bad guy. Um,
mm.
so
Okay.
that's kind of my summary for you, but I have very basic tips for those of us with type 1 diabetes, because with type 1 diabetes, we're at risk of a leaky gut. That's where the small intestines, which I think of like a garden hose from our stomach to our colon, is more damaged. So if you think of
Mm,
a coffee filter, we want those coffee beans, that flavor to come through. And a leaky gut, those grinds are coming through, and the grinds are
mm,
getting into our system or the coffee cup at the end of the day. And we want to make sure we seal that up, heal that up overall. So with type 1 diabetes, we're at risk of a leaky gut or a coffee filter with holes. We're also at risk of gut inflammation, and we're also at risk of food sensitivities. Um,
mm,
so stool tests can be so valuable. And I think we're very in tune with how we feel often, knowing like, oh, am I high? Do I need to look at my CGM? Oh, am I low? Do I need to eat something? We can also be really in tune with how food makes us feel. So that's step number one. Always be
yeah,
in tune with how food makes us feel, but make sure we're chewing our food.
yeah, yeah.
Improving enzymes can come from just being present with our meal, not working and eating at the same time or driving, which I'm surely guilty of doing carpool most
Hmm.
nights with my kids.
Understood. Yeah.
But we want to make sure we chew our food, we're present with how food makes us feel. It's optimal to spread our meals apart. Um, it's optimal to make sure we're fully hydrated. Not only does it help with digestion, but it supports our insulin to work better. And we need to make sure we're having adequate protein and fiber. Fiber feeds the bacteria in that garden bed in our colon
Hmm.
to help strengthen that garden hose, that coffee filter in our body and system. And most importantly, it is so crucial that we diversify our diet. As someone with type
Mm,
1 diabetes, I like to repeat my meals because I know how much insulin they need. But at the end of the
right.
day, that might hurt my gut bacteria.
Yeah. And yeah, you're bringing up some great points here because it's funny, a lot of my friends, people that know me, they know how I live, my habits, how consistent I am. Even my husband, he's like, what's going on? Why is your gut bacteria out about, based on how well we eat? Part of my search too, when I was trying to figure out all these issues that were going on that were causing my skin to flare up was, things like detergent. There's obviously some environmental factors that could influence it, and maybe they did. I think that's the most frustrating part because I'll never really know the cause, but we can still understand what may be part of the puzzle. And that's what I've kind of done. It's just to be a little bit more, um, I guess, just aware of really, all the things that could be impacting this. But you mentioned something about diversity, which is real important. Vegetables, fruits, and yeah, it's like maybe even every week. And I try to do this myself, just trying a different vegetable, a different fruit, because I'm guilty of that too. I'll go to the store and I tend to put the same things in the grocery shopping, and
Mhm.
even though the meals don't include the same things all the time, there's not a lot of diversity even in my own fridge. Um, and herbs is another way to do it as well. I'm hearing more about that. That's easy ways to add in.
I tell like when I help clients, even this conversation can feel really overwhelming to listeners.
Mhm.
And it's all about simplifying and setting up systems. And those are my big words. Let's simplify, let's set up a system. The average American eats the same 15 foods a week. And
Mm,
surely it's okay if you eat the same breakfast this week. But then next week, let's rotate what's in that meal. But also lean into the seasons of the year. If we lean into what's
it's
seasonally
true.
produce, that'll help the diversity of our gut. So
Just
like
let the seasons guide it, right? Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
absolutely. And I
Hmm.
love smooth soups. I'm combining all my words.
Soups.
I love soups, smoothies, and scrambles because that's an easy way to get a lot of color in that meal. And rotating what type of fruit you use versus vegetable. People always think, oh, in my smoothie, I can only use spinach and kale. And I'm like, well, why not Swiss chard? Why not zucchini? Why not cauliflower? Why not broccoli? If it's frozen, you can't taste it.
It's
And I'm not
true.
I'm not asking people to put bowls in, just a hair.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
spices go such a long way as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, I want your questions to keep coming, but I want to make sure we also touch on a population that we help. I more lean
Yeah.
into perimenopause in my practice, and I know you're perimenopause and menopause in yours.
Hmm. Hmm.
When we have estrogen drop, that also has a
Hmm.
significant influence on the gut. And I'm not
Hmm.
sure if you and Kim chatted about this, yes, or
We
episode.
did. Yes. Yes. And we chatted on it as a as something that we experience, but not as experts, because we continue to learn. You know, we're both sponges. We're just constantly learning, and obviously bringing that into our own practices and the people that we coach. But yes, we're hearing more and more about the hormones impact on our gut microbiome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There are 4 points I thought could be quick and simple for me to mention if you think it'd be good.
sure. Yeah.
Um, when our estrogen and progesterone go down, that can actually slow down our motility. And maybe some of us are noticing that. And
Mhm.
that's why in perimenopause and menopause, it's all about the power of protein and the power of fiber. Fiber is pulled along just as much as this protein. I think when we both open our social media, it's like endless graphics on what equates to 30 grams of protein. But along
Right.
with that, in our messaging is the power of fiber. And I love fiber from all produce. I love fiber from all produce, but I also love it from the chia and the flax.
Mm.
Flaxseed actually it's a phytoestrogen, but it also is very beneficial on some bad bacteria and helping remove it. So
Oh.
I love the seeds. But our motility can slow down, and slowing down motility can lead to constipation.
Mhm.
Constipation can lead to reabsorption of estrogen. So then there's
Mm.
more of an estrogen imbalance, but it
Mm.
also can cause some smoke to go up into that fire hose or small intestines to make it more leaky. So
Mm.
there's a disadvantage when our estrogen goes down,
Yeah.
slowing down motility, constipation, but we can fix that with plenty of fiber and hydration. uh,
Mhm.
Overall, but also diversity. This is what made me think of it. When we have lower levels of estrogen, the diversity of the bacteria in our colon or garden bed goes down. So that's a byproduct of aging, going into this phase of our life. So it's more and more important to diversify our diet than ever.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, Also the gut barrier, people might notice, okay, in my 30s, I started noticing I didn't tolerate dairy as well.
Mm.
In my 40s, it feels like grains I don't tolerate. And that's coming down to the leakiness of the gut. And with type 1 diabetes, that's already a risk. So there's even more of a layer with dropping estrogen. So leaky gut is a factor too. People might notice, oh, I don't tolerate what I used to. And I used it
Mhm.
fine, and now I don't.
Mhm.
And then last but not least, after menopause, people may have lower levels of Firmicutes to Bacteroides. So these are the two main phylums. I just said a foreign language. These are
Mhm. You sure did. Yeah. Rolled
these
off your
are
tongue beautifully too. That was good.
these are two phyla in the bacteria, and we want them in balance. But when they become out of balance, which estrogen can have an impact on that, we'll start to extract more calories from our food. So a lot of people are like, "Oh, I'm getting menopause weight gain, perimenopause weight gain." That can be related to blood sugars, insulin resistance, and cortisol,
A lot of things.
also
Yeah.
related to these guys. And to
Mhm.
improve that, it's got diversity and taking really a good probiotic. I like
Mhm.
to source all our needs from foods, but a probiotic can be a low-hanging fruit to correct things.
Yeah. Is there a just to kind of expand on the probiotic? You know, there's a lot of probiotics out there. Should we be getting you know, the levels checked and looking at what our gut bacteria currently is before we just kind of slap a probiotic on it?
Yeah, I think
Is
it's about
that
what people can afford.
mm,
I want people to do a stool test yearly,
right?
honestly, but
Yeah,
that's a cost. That's a cost that
sure.
we need to think, is it a priority? But I think if you're like, I can't throw 400 at that, and then the extra cost for the consult, I do have a few favorites. My
Okay.
absolute go-to one, a lot of my clients come to me more with constipation.
Mm.
There's a product on Full Script that actually uses the spores from Megaspore. That's a very common probiotic used
Mm-hmm.
the GIMAP test, which is good.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's Dr. Kenneth Brown. He worked with Microbiome Labs, and he took their spore
Yes,
and he made a
yes.
product called Antrantil Pro. Antrantil
Ah.
Pro, and that's Megaspore's probiotics plus a robust amount of polyphenols. And this is
Mm.
helping with bacteria overgrowth naturally, and it's also helping with constipation. And it's one of the products I'm having the most success with myself and clients right now.
Mm. That's really good to know.
But you
Yes.
could be spending money on a product your body doesn't need, but
Yeah.
that could be a generalized one that, hey, just try this first, see if it helps resolve a lot of your symptoms, even insulin resistance, weight loss, bowel movements.
And in that case, yeah, like you say, it's not going to hurt. It's not going to necessarily hurt any sort of bacteria. It's worth a try. And then the symptoms is going to be our first, you know, whether it's a you know, whether it's working or not, you know, so just paying Yeah. Yeah. Just paying attention to our body.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So it really can be that simple. I like that. Dr. Ken, what was the
Brown.
name? Brown. Okay. I'm thinking of a different doctor. I think, and this is kind of a side note because I have a book. I think this is his book. No, it's Ken Berry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
What book is it? I'm curious.
It's called Common Sense Labs, Blood Labs Demystified. It's a really good one. I'll have to send it to you off the side. I just got it. I heard him talk and he just simplifies. He talks about the best test, how to get him test, optimal levels,
Yeah.
and just interpreting. This kind of leads me to, so a lot of people I think are going to be listening today and they're thinking, okay, well, these are ideas that maybe I should get looked into. I'll just go to my endo or I'll just go to my gyno. So what do you think about that?
I think there's areas that need support, and doctors are 17 years behind on nutrition research. And a lot of this gut functional labs stool test, or more on the nutrition area. And even my clients who have gastroenterologists, they kind of blow off these stool tests because there's so many microbes in the gut, and these stool tests are pulling certain strains related to disease and how to correct, that you'll almost be laughed at, or gaslit. That's the word I'm going to
I
use.
know, I know.
But I
Yeah.
think if we go in not in a defensive way and ask for a curious open conversation based off a test you have in your hand, based
Mm,
off your symptoms, based off what you're trying to do, and try to get their opinion, can lead to a powerful conversation.
yeah.
And that's what I try to arm my clients with, and I'm sure you do too. It's not I'm going to solve all their problems, is I'm going to help lead your journey and
Yeah.
help you utilize your village,
There
because
you go.
we're
Yeah.
going to need our endo the rest of our lives.
Right.
We're
Right.
going to need them in our corner. I always tell
Mm-hmm.
my endo, I'm like, all right, I don't want to make you mad. I never know when I need a kidney, like literally. So we just need to make sure we are in good relationship with everyone in our village, and you have the opportunity to interview as many doctors as you need to find the right
That's
person.
right. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Don't settle on being dismissed or ignored or sent to another specialist that are really just going to give you medication for the symptoms. So yeah, let's solve it. Right. Let's get to the bottom of it. So right now, with my protocol, I'm on a what is called intestinal. So I am right in the middle of and you're familiar with this product, Kelly.
Yeah.
It's herbal based. So it's a 30-day, it's 3 gel caps a day. I've got it backwards. And I'm not seeing, I will say overall, my skin has really calmed down. My face was pretty inflamed, you know, just a couple months ago. So, and I know it takes time, right? Healing takes time. Getting rid of, obviously the pathogens and getting that bacteria back in line. So, and this is a question that I have, and that many I'm sure have here. Okay, when do I know it's healed? Symptom wise, I guess would be my clue, right? Do I at what do I need to stay on as far as these, I'll call them supplements, that's because that's confusing. Even as a coach, and I've got all the ability to look this up, I'm still not sure. I went to order because I get most of mine on full script the other day. So I went on and I was like, well, I've only got 10 pills left of this probiotic. I'm almost done with the digestive enzyme. Is this, and it's okay if it's an ongoing thing. I'm all about healing and keeping it healthy. But
Yeah.
what's necessary for me, and I know this is a blanket statement. You can't necessarily tell anybody else at this point, not knowing, where they're at. But do we need to be on these supplements forever?
I think out of the gate, there's going to be an abundance of things to take pill wise. There's a number. I always lead with lifestyle. I
Yeah.
help the client heal top down, but lead with lifestyle, because
Mm-hmm.
otherwise those supplements can be a wash. So you want to make sure you're majoring in the majors of sleep, stress management, hydration, blood sugar control, macros, and so forth. But your supplements you're on, I would not say you need them forever. Absolutely not. But I do think a good probiotic and kind of rotating that probiotic every 3 months or so to help diversity would be good. I would, knowing your test results in front of me, I would, if that mega spore biotic, that spore probiotic you're on is you're coming to the end of that bottle. I honestly, from your results, I would move you to an Antrantil Pro. So it's the same
Oh,
thing, but with
okay.
the polyphenols. Those polyphenols are going to help support your gut bacteria balance because there's imbalance in your
Okay.
and those oreganos, those oils, they sound like very innocent, ingredients in our soup. But they are
Right.
actually killing off, they're cleaning up bacteria. So those are good. If people are on them too long, it can do harm. So 30 days
Mm,
is good. Your practitioner is trying to kill overgrowth. That's what she's
hmm.
doing with that for 30 days. And then you want probiotics to make sure that that garden bed's growing flowers, not weeds.
Right. There you go. Yeah.
But I want to give you polyphenols as well. With type
Mhm.
1 diabetes, we need extra insurance in our gut. If we
Yeah.
have a lot of bad bacteria versus good, and I'm talking flowers versus weeds, I'm talking gram positive versus gram negative, which is something people do not need to understand. But if we have a lot of gram negative, that bad weed bacteria is producing a gas or an endotoxin called LPS. And this is where I get really passionate, is when we have a lot of gram-negative bacteria, people don't know until we test, and high levels of anti-LPS circulating in the body, that's when the risk of retinopathy, literally research on
Mm,
that is coming up. That's where complications of type 1 diabetes start presenting themselves. But if we take care of that gut, not only can we prevent complications, but we can prevent ongoing autoimmune disease diagnoses.
mm,
And even when you told me you're like, I'm getting tested for this other autoimmune disease, I felt for you because I want to protect anyone and everyone I can from complications or
yeah.
secondary autoimmune diseases. And in my first episode with you, my story is my dad. And
Yeah.
honestly, like my dad's not doing well.
Mm,
I can get upset. But
no.
type 1 can be really bad, but we can defy the odds.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can. And it starts with the gut. It starts with a
Hmm.
simple stool test.
Yeah. Yeah.
It comes with a smart practitioner knowing what to tell you to do. But with your supplements, I would diffuse a lot of the things you are on and simplify it. But I think the Antrantil Pro would be something you ongoingly rotate into your long-term supplement dosing. But I also would highly recommend those enzymes in HCl long-term because
Okay.
once you carry a pathogen, you're at risk to carry them again. And we
Okay.
want to make sure we are guarding the gates uh,
Right.
from that happening. So.
Right. Keep the armor on, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So those
I
are the
like it.
two most important things. And then other supplements, when I think of type 1 clients, is basically a common methylated B complex is always good. A fish oil is always good.
Hmm.
That's kind of the foundational ones right
Yeah.
there. And
Yeah.
depending on what someone's symptoms or goals are, I might sprinkle in a few more, but I don't want a client to fill up a pill container. Um,
Mm,
more than twice a day. Maybe I like taking them
right.
supplements at lunch and bedtime. That's it. Because
Right.
otherwise we're taking pills for meals.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, understood. Really good, really good. So what would your because I know this is what you love and you have a passion for, and this is what you specialize in. So what would you, for the listeners here, that took this in, heard my story, maybe heard where I was, where I am now. I'm still healing, and I'm going to get with you on those other supplements because I want to add that to my toolbox and maybe just kind of phase out what I'm taking and just kind of cycle through that. Real important. Yeah, we've got to do all we can do with what with what we're kind of handed with this disease, and I love the fact that you're so just the information on getting the levels. I'm big on levels, hormone levels. That's another whole topic, but just to say that that we might get on hormone replacement one day. This is foundational.
yeah.
This needs to happen first before somebody goes to another type of practitioner, hormone expert, and they put you on bioidenticals.
Yeah.
This needs to be the first step.
It's so good you're saying this.
Yes.
Like all my friends, all my clients, they want the HRT. They want the Kool-Aid. But if your liver and gut are imbalanced, the HRT is not going to properly work and can be.
Right.
So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, so starting with the gut and I love liver cleanses.
Mm-hmm.
as well are the places to look for while investigating your hormone balance needs. But supporting gut bacteria in the liver is step 1 and 2.
Right, right. And not to necessarily be looking for symptoms. I mean, I obviously had a symptom that, and you know, I'm thankful for a symptom. Symptoms are good, right? That's the body saying, whoa, pay attention.
Yeah.
So I only wished I had responded sooner, but you know, we can't go back to what we didn't do at the beginning. But you know, wouldn't you say, and this is a blanket statement, women who turn, okay, you're living with type 1 diabetes or any type of diabetes, you're 40-ish. Well, this is you, Kelly, but yeah, you're already ahead of the
Tell me
game.
more.
But to get, I mean, and not even with the symptoms, you know, maybe, you know, they're starting to feel the perimenopause symptoms. They're starting to see the insulin resistance. These are things I experienced going through perimenopause in my mid 40s. I had no clue about gut microbiome back then. I was like, I'm fine. I'm regular. I eat a diverse diet. My weight's stable. My insulin was getting more resistant. I was putting on a little weight. So I was a little bit, some of the symptoms were starting to pop on. I thought at that time, okay, my foundation was pretty strong, and it was. And that's when I went on bioidentical. But you know, looking back, I wonder if maybe, you know, we don't know when my bacteria got out of balance. We don't know what triggered that. Maybe it's just been slowly kind of just getting worse. That's probably more of the case, right?
Yeah.
You know, the parasite might have tripped it up or triggered it or whatever. But in hindsight, I'm going to say this. I mean, if you're 40, if you're living with type 1 diabetes, you're starting to feel any sort of midlife symptoms, go get a GIMAP done or that other test that you mentioned. Start there. Let's look at the foundation. Let's look really what's going on with all of that first. And to get with a good practitioner like yourself that can give you honest advice. Not only that, but you live with diabetes as well. So you get all the other variables that we have to tackle. Because long term, we all want to feel and function at our best. 40 is just the beginning of life, I think. I think that's when a woman is just in her peak with a lot of different areas of her life. And what a time to really say, okay, now's the time to really figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I think the investment in a stool test, it's you will earn your money back. There's a good ROI because you will spend so much less time, energy, and focused and cost on doing the right things. So I agree with that as well. And I wanted to note too, by the age 3, when we turn 3, our commensals are pretty much set. So our bacteria strains are pretty much set in our colon, and then things that interfere with it include processed foods, environmental toxins, stress, and lifestyle. We'll manipulate it, but overall our commensals are set at age 3, and they can be expressing themselves after each decade of our life. So I'm not sure if there's a big grenade that went off for you, but maybe it was a stressful season of your life. Those acids and enzymes went down, and then you consumed an apple that had a parasite on it and your body didn't remove it. So bodies are smart. Most healthy individuals, their body will fight that parasite out.
Right. Yes.
But when we are a good host, it'll stay put.
Understood. The parasite wins that battle. Yeah. Yes. But it's not going to win. So yeah, I'm real excited to be on this end of it, you know, to be able to not only share, just like you say, there's definitely a story with this, or there's a purpose with this story, you know, because that's why we're here, you know, to share what we go through and know that we struggle. We are women that are living with a chronic disease as well. This is not an easy task, but we need each other. And we definitely need conversations like this just to kind of open it out. Yeah.
And it's taking one step at a time. It's not jumping on all the pills Melissa's on. It can be something very basic and simple. So don't be scared when listeners feel ready to investigate, take that step and take it one at a time.
Yeah, really
It'll be
good.
okay.
Yeah. I appreciate you. Do you have any final words of wisdom, or you can share with our listeners how they can get in touch with you? And we'll be sure to link all of your contact information right here in the show notes as well.
Yeah, I loved how you kind of wrapped this up perfectly, that I know a lot of your listeners are focused on type 1 diabetes and hormone health, but it really does begin with supporting the liver and the gut to utilize our medication even better. Let that be hormones or any medication we're taking.
Right.
Um, and I love this conversation. I'm happy to come back and explore, and I'm eager to help every type 1 I can prevent those complications and further autoimmune diseases with a personal vested interest. Because it's tough. It's tough seeing what I'm seeing as a growing adult that started in childhood, seeing my dad go through everything
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
But we're in a new day
Sorry
and
about
age,
your dad.
better solutions and great things coming out, and great education helping fill the gaps and overlap with the practitioners that help us.
Yes, yes. And to advocate for that. Yes, yes, because you're worth it. You're worth it. I'm worth it. We are all worth it for sure. Yeah, yeah. Put that extra time and effort into it. It always pays off in the long run.
Yeah.
I think of the cost of, and it's not just money, it's the stress, and we all know what stress does to our blood sugar and our sleep and all the things. It's such it can just be a vicious cycle. And it's all about just getting back to the basics and really understanding what's going on. So thanks again. I appreciate it. And chances are we'll have you back in here because I just love talking with you and sharing it with my listeners. So thanks, Kelly.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes. And again, we will share Kelly's information right here. And have a great week. Bye for now. We'll see you in here next week.